So let's look at the solution, and you could continue to peck away while I show the solution. And alternatively, and then when I'm done showing the solution, I'm going to request that you turn your monitors again. So you could create all those divs with emit, and you could do div, and I want to have a class of item, and then maybe I want to just have content in the div of numbers, and I want 17 of them. So that would be the emit shorthand notation, and then I hit tab and it creates all of that. That's emit. And if you're watching this video online, you don't know anything about emit, you could go to emit.io and learn everything. But a lot of editors allow you to do shorthand techniques. Emit cheat sheet shows you the shorthand techniques. You could Google emit cheat sheet. And then I do that, and I have my 17 divs. So I have a div with a class container. Excuse me. And then I've got a bunch of divs in there. And the first one I called first. I don't really like that, but because 0 is first, I think I'll call it arrow. That's kind of cool. 0, and I'll call this one 16. So I actually have 17. In programming, a lot of counting starts at 0. It's called a zero-base index because the decimal system has 10 digits, deci 10, and those 10 digits are 0 through 9. Kind of interesting. So there are my 17 divs, and then the CSS. So for each item, I had to have flexgrow on there. And I gave you guys that in the challenge. And then the container, I gave it a height of 775, a border. I said display flex. Flex direction was column. Interestingly, I didn't have flex wrap. You had column wrap, is that right? Interesting. So I just have flex wrap, and align content flex end was how I did mine. We did that on yours and went in the center, huh? So I'm not sure where our settings differed. Did you have flexgrow 1? You probably did. Yeah.
Yours looks different still.
Mine's still a little different. So when I preview this, so there's often many ways to do it. When I preview that, that's what it looks like. And CSS tricks, flexbox. Somebody had flex wrap, column wrap. I don't know if that's a setting. So we have flex wrap, and we could have no wrap or wrap reverse. I'm not sure why that worked. HTML CSS is notoriously forgiving. And if we look at flexbox, MDN flexbox, using flexbox and flex right here, and if we look at the different settings, sorry, that's flex. See flexible boxes, display flex. I'm just wondering where I see all my properties. Flex container, flex item, directions, dimensions, considerations, examples, playground. Let me see here. We have flex, and then flex direction, and we want flex wrap. We can look at the flex wrap properties. Look at each of the properties individually. So the flex wrap properties are only no wrap, and wrap reverse. Not sure why column wrap. Interesting though, but you got it. That was awesome. So I think it's also important just to reiterate when you're doing this to stick to the specifications as much as possible, or always, or as much as possible, and make sure that you're using the properties and values which are defined. All right, so that was the challenge. That kind of came out feeling funny to me. I don't know why. I wasn't trying to criticize one person, but just pointing out one of the things I saw. Cool. So what's next? We have a container, and we looked at the container, and you guys had a challenge, and we did align content, and that was all the container. Now, next what we're going to learn and look at are flexbox items. So for flexbox items, we have align self, order, flexgrow, flexbases, flexshrink, and flex, which is a shorthand property for grow basis, grow, shrink, and basis, right? I'm just taking that in for a second because I kind of have those in different orders. I might change the order. So over at CSS Tricks, which is like where I recommend, of course, to go a reference guide for flexbox, we're going to look at the properties on the right-hand side. So we're going to learn how to set properties on items. And there's order, where we could change the order. So the source order is how things are displayed in your HTML. So this would be like the source order in my HTML, right? That's the source order. And order allows me, through CSS, to change the order in which things are displayed on the page. So you can rearrange things, kind of cool. And then we have flexgrow and flexshrink, and we have flexbases, which we'll learn about. And we have flex, which is a shorthand for grow, shrink, and basis. And then we have align self. And since that's a shorthand for grow, shrink, and basis, I'm going to change this right here to be, this one will be 5. And this one will be 4. So that grow, shrink, and basis, these 3 properties, in that order, that's the shorthand that you set them, grow, shrink, and basis. Anybody have any questions? I feel like it's all good. You guys are all good? Cool. So let's start off by looking at align self. So I'm going to look at these sort of in different order than they're laid out here. So just based upon the fact that this is a line, which axes do you think it's going to impact? We're going to be shifting things along the main axes or the cross axes because it's called a line. When it's the container, align items or align content is along which axes, main or cross? It's along the cross, right? Align is along the cross axes. How can you remember that? Come up with some mnemonic device. Somebody throw one out. How do you remember a line as cross axes?
Don't cross that line.
Don't cross that line. The one that came up for me is a line starts with A, cross axis starts with C, AC. Cool. It's air conditioning. I don't know. That's a line, cross axes, AC. Justify contents, main axes. So align self, it's called align self. Which axis do you think it's going to be impacting, main or cross? Cross axes, okay? And so we get to align one item. So we could have line items set up on the entire container. We could have align items on the entire container. And then we could go to one item and we can align it. Now, why is it called align self and not align item? Seems like maybe that would have been good. Just call it align item. This is called align items. Let's call that align item. Because it's already an item. It's not the item it's holding. It's an item. It's already the flex item. So you're just going to say align self. And by saying align self, what is that? What do you apply these items on the right-hand side to? What do you apply these properties on the right-hand side to? Items. Properties on the right-hand side are applied to items. So this one is called align self. So when you're putting properties, and this is one of the snafus where people get hung up, confused with Flexbox, when you're putting properties on containers, you saw me do this when we first started talking about it, those are impacting the items. They're looking down the DOM. Here's the container. It looks in the DOM, down the DOM at the items it's containing. And you set properties on the container, it's impacting the items in it. When you set a property on an item, right, it's already on an item. And when that property on an item has to sort of reference its container, it's going to look up the DOM. it'll look up the DOM. And we'll see an example where an item has to reference its container. Anyhow, so that's why that's called a line self, because it's already an item. So an items refers to something that something's holding. I'm holding these items, and this is already an item, so just a line self. So let's see a line self. 4 divs, and one of them is called deviate. Given the idea deviate, because it's going to deviate. And then for the CSS, we have height, border, display flex, flex direction row, flex wrap wrap. And then for each item, all these classes right there, this CSS will be applied to it. We have a width, we have a height, we have a margin, a border, a background color, text align center. So that's just formatting. And then deviate is flex end. So this doesn't have a line item set. What is the default for line items? It's stretch. Interesting. Let's see what it looks like. I think this example will be more clear if we do this. Same thing. The reason these guys didn't stretch is because they have a height. If I took that height out, right, the items all stretched, and then this one got slammed to the bottom and said, I can't stretch anywhere. But it makes more sense when it's align items are at the top and we have a height. So you can see align items, put them at the start. So this is a row. Main axis is horizontal. Cross axis is vertical. Align items is going to align items along the vertical axis, the cross axes. Put them all at the start, except for deviate. Align self, put it at the end. Interesting. Align self. And here we have baseline. Line self flex in. And this is what the CSS looks like. So we have the container with a height, a border, display flex, flex direction, row, flex wrap wrap. So that's the container. And then we have items, width, height, margin, border, background color, display flex. So this is a flex container. And then each of these are flex items. Why is my mouse acting funny? Maybe my battery's running out. Look at that, it's just weird. Maybe it's because I have the HDMI right next to my mouse. All right, so then we have display flex. For each of these items, they become flex containers. And we have justified content center. And we got some interesting stuff going on. And then for start, center, end, right? Start, we have align items flex start. Center, align items center. End, align items flex end. Baseline is align self flex end. I think I should call that something other than baseline. Let's see what it looks like. Three and 4 both have baseline. I'm going to change that to base because baseline actually means something. Or deviate. I'll call that deviate. I like deviate. Deviate. I wonder if I need that text aligned. It's almost like I was trying to demonstrate baseline, but somehow didn't do that example. So let's do, this is line self flex end. And then I have align self baseline as the next example. And flex direction, align self flex end, display flex direction row, flex wrap. That's for the container. So all these guys here, the primary axes for these 4 divs right there, these 4 divs is horizontal. And primary axis is horizontal, and its default row, which is what we have right here, and no wrap. And then down here we go width, height, margin, border, background color, display flex, justify content center. So this is these are each flex containers. They are row, and justify content is the main axes. So we're centering our text, so the text got horizontally centered. And then align items for each of these items will center the text along. Well, it impacts the text along the cross axes. So we have flex start for start, which is this one. So vertically at the top, we have flex. We have again start on the number 2, vertically at the top, and then on number 3 we have center, which centers it vertically, and end, which puts it at the end vertically. So we did all of our text, and then we had deviate, align self, flex end. So both those got put at the end. And so again, right here, maybe it'd be interesting if we did align items, flex start. Same thing. Right there, same thing. Confused you a little on that example? Not the best example. Width 200, height. Like if we didn't have align items, stretch is the default, same thing. So it's pretty much the same example that we saw last time. Not sure why I included it. Because in the next one I want to do baseline. Because with align self, close tabs to the right. One of the properties is baseline. So we could also do baseline with align self, just like over here we had baseline. Line items baseline, and we were able to do this with all the light items. We could do that with 2. So we've got that for HTML. And then here, I have align self baseline. So let me do align items and flex start. So the container, somebody explain the container. Somebody say it. What's happening with the container? Read it to me. Read it to everybody. Like I've been explaining it. Main axes, cross axes, different settings. Somebody read it to all of us. Come on, Jesus. You started a religion, dude. You're nailed to a cross. Came back from the dead. You could read this.
It's hold up. Oh, good. It's 700 pixels high. It's the height of it, right?
Cool.
Alright. It has a border of red and 5 pixels for the thickness of the border.
5 pixel solid red border.
Alright, it's making everything in there flex, right? So it has a display property of flex.
Cool. So that just became a flex container, and every item that's an immediate direct child is a flex item.
Alright. And then it has everything going in a row instead of a column, the direction of all the items.
Cool.
In a row. And has the property of wrap, so everything's wrapping around.
Cool.
And then it aligns items on the, if it's in a row, it'll be on the cross axes.
Okay, so since this is a row, the main axis is horizontal, which means the cross axis is vertical, and the line items impacts the cross axes.
So it starts.
Okay, cool. Well done, Jesus.
Thanks.
This guy gets a lot of reaction from people. Just you can see how he started a world religion.
What I do,
He explains a little CSS. He gets a round of applause. Well, awesome. Get the guy talking about like bread and fish and loving your brother. You're gonna start getting large churches in Texas.
Thanks.
Big buildings. All right, somebody explain item. What's happening in item? You just read it, man. There's no progress without casualties, and often when you take yourself out of your comfort zone, you're one of the first casualties, but that's how you grow. And I talked to you guys about, that image, right, where the magic happens. Your comfort zone, and when you're outside your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. This one's probably shows it the best.
Yeah, Rito had us watch a video about that TED Talks thing. It said basically, what was it, 20 hours?
20 hours.
Can you explain it? I can't really explain it, right?
Yeah, so you can pretty much learn anything in 20 hours.
But you have to be able to
But you gotta overcome your...
scared.
Yeah.
You have to be not scared. People fear failing or not knowing how to do stuff at the beginning, like incompetent at the beginning, but then you learn how to do it over a certain amount of time practicing. So you're afraid to take that initial step, like that first push off the cliff.
Yeah.
So you can fly.
Yeah, and most people don't know it, but the way you get to success is by failing.
True.
Which is kind of interesting. And anyhow, it's also, where the magic happens is also like where you fail over and over and over. But eventually you don't fail. Like that Linda thing, it's like I was outside my comfort zone and didn't do the best job, but man, I learned a lot. All right, so who's going to read it? It's an opportunity for you to get outside your comfort zone and maybe make a fool of yourself and learn something. Perfect.
Each item is a flex container itself, and then justify content is centering in whatever container it's in.
So justify content works on the
axis of it.
which one? Main axis or cross axis?
Main.
Yep. Justify content's the main axis. and so display flex is a row. Justify content's going to center things horizontally. It's a row by default. And then we just have width, height, margin, border. So what does that do? What does having display flex there, justify content center do?
Instead of it being from one side to the next, it basically centers it in its element.
All right, so here's the class item. Class item is applied to these 4 divs. Makes each of those divs a flex container. And we're saying, hey, in this container, applied to the item of the container, what's the item in each of those containers?
Text.
It's text. We're saying along the main axis, which is a row, so along the horizontal axes, we want to center this. So it centers the text. You could have also done text align center. And that would do it.
Now that brings an interesting question with the text. Would you be able to manipulate that a little bit better for vertical centering?
With the text, manipulate it a little better for vertical centering. With flex? Yes.
That is,
Yeah, absolutely. Because to vertically center it, all I have to use is align items, right? Apply align items to the container. And I could say, because that's the cross axes, main axis here, display flex, is a row. And it's row because the default on flex direction is row. So if I don't specify it, it's a row. So I just say display flex, and I don't specify flex direction. It's already a row, so main axis is a row. And justify content does the main axis, which is the horizontal. And align items does the cross axis, which is vertical. So now I could vertically center right there. My mouse is like so squirrely. Line item center right there. So how does start, when I apply start here, or center, or end, all of those classes, these classes here where I say align items, how does it know that I'm applying it to these flex containers as opposed to that flex container?
specificity,
Specificity.
yeah, because it's class of things. Say that quick 3 times.
It's being applied to these containers because it's in that container. So start right here is in this container. So apply it to this element, right? And this is a container setting, and this element's a container, so apply it to that one. Just something to think about because we have 2 containers, right? Okay, so that was, and then finally we applied baseline to these 3. So we've put the text in different positions. We put the text horizontally in the main axes for each of those flex containers, which are the divs. And then we said put it at the flex start, put it at the flex center, put it at the flex end. And then for these 3, we said baseline, and it lined up the text. So that's just learning about this stuff. That's what it does. And we saw baseline with align items. Align items, baseline, we saw that. But we could also do baseline with some stuff that's been aligned self. We could baseline them, and then they line up. Just illustrating the different nuances. I was looking at 3, align self, baseline, 5503, 055.
No.
03. Huh?
The CSS tricks when you're referring back to
Oh, which one am I looking at? Baseline? Right here, we were talking about align self over on the right side of the page.
No. Like how it's right here, which one of these which one did you open up to get for your screen to look like that?
Go to Google
Right.
and search for CSS tricks flexbox.
All the differences.
It'll take you to a complete guide to flexbox.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Look at that, I moved. Seems like that helped. I moved my mouse receiver from not next to the HDMI. Isn't that weird? Complete guide to flexbox is what we're looking at. All right, so next one is a stretch. There it goes, it's screwing up. What about from right here? That's better. So weird. Well, I like the HDMI, but it seems to have messed up my mouse. So let's look at this page in action, then we'll look at the CSS. So I could apply to one item to stretch it. So again, with here we have stretch as one of the settings for align self. And with align items, we also had stretch. And with line content, we have stretch. So we have stretch also with align self. And when you stretch something, that's what it looks like. So the CSS on that. Deviate is align self stretch. The container, display flex, flex direction row, flex wrap. And since I have a width, see, I put a height on them, but I don't need a height. I could do a line. Do I want to align items? Yes, I want to align items and not content. Flex start, and then I could take this out. They don't need a height. And that should be the same. Oh, that's not the same. They need a height. Bring that up here. But then that's going to overrun my stretch. Okay, I need a height. Anybody have any questions about this page? Stretch. Takes a little playing with. So that's the line. And we have order. So here's no order, right? My CSS, I have display flex, flex direction column, flex wrap wrap. I could have just said flex flow, column wrap, shorthand. Div, width, height, margin, border, background, text align, center. So this is just the default order. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. You guys see that? Default order. Then I could have the same HTML, and I have the same CSS, except I changed one thing, but flex, display flex, flex direction column, flex wrap, and then the divs, just styling it, no flex stuff there. But then I targeted each of the IDs in the HTML, so AAA has ID AA, and I said NN is going to be number 1, MM is going to be 2, LL is 3. And when I look at this, it does the exact same thing as column reverse. Just reverse the order. But because I could target each item individually, these are item properties, I could just target some of them. N, M, L, K, A, B, C, D. So I could completely change the order with my CSS. And I just changed, I made everything order 5, and then I overwrote that with N, M, L, and K, made them 1, 2, 3, and 4 to put them ahead of everything. And the specificity here, the ID is more specific than the general attribute, the general element selector. We haven't learned about CSS specificity yet, so don't worry if that doesn't make sense. And so here's just one more example of order 3, 1, 2, right? I changed the order, so 2, 3, 1. And in the order, the source order, those are 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. See you, Rio.
See you, bye. Have a good weekend.
We didn't get to the stuff I prepped all day on.
I know, I was wondering.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're recording.
Yeah. See ya. So that's align self and order. Order and align self. Hey, what's up?
I was wondering, can you change the order if it's like, for example, if it was 2, 1, 3, 4 in a row, and then it wrapped around to a column, like the screen got small, so everything was in a column. Could you make just the column ordering 1, 2, 3, 4, but have the row still out of order? like have different orders depending on if it's in a row or column?
Different orders depending upon whether or not it's in a row or a column. Yeah, with a media query, maybe.
Okay.
Different orders, media query. So different screen sizes, you could have row versus another screen size you could have column. You could have different orders at each of those different sizes.
Okay.
That's how you do it with the media query. All right, so then we have 3 properties left: flexgrow, flexshrink, and flexbases. How many people are completely wiped out and can't take any more into their head? How many people want more? Nobody wants more? What time does class end? 5:50?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's just do it. So here's flexgrow. It makes things grow. So we have flex 3 divs, different classes. The CSS is class flex 1 will grow 1, flex 2 grows 2. And we have display flex for the body, which is the container. So it's row, no wrap. That's the default. And then we just give the divs a height and a border. So they're going to grow differently. So flexgrow is what gives it a dynamic quality. If we didn't have flexgrow, they didn't grow. I didn't set a width, right? All I did is say, hey, grow. And if you're flex 1, if you're flex 2, if that's your class, grow twice as much as that which is flex 1. That's starting to sound sort of biblical. If you're flex 2, grow twice as much as flex 1. Sounds like something you might read in the Bible. I'm going to get some ACLU suing me or something, or somebody. Easy to offend. Somebody who's easy to offend. So you can see this one was flex 2. It grew twice as much as the flex 1s. Right? You could almost like visually add those two together and get this one. So flexgrow is not complicated. Just says how much something grows. And we didn't have to give them width. Right? I mean, look at how simple that code is.
That's great for responsiveness.
Great for responsiveness. Also notice we are row, no wrap. So we get some interesting things when we go to row wrap and then start setting width. We'll see that. 3 divs. And we have display flex. And we just gave them all flexgrow 1. They're all going to be the same size. Five divs, 4 of them are flex 1, one's flex 2. Display flex, same thing, just a few more divs. We got grow 1 and grow 2. Just showing you different numbers. And these numbers are just numbers in relationship to each other. So 1, 2 is the exact same thing as 2, 4. Is the exact same thing as 2,000. 4,000. They just figure out the proportions in relation to each other. So this one's going to be twice as much as this one. That's kind of cool to know. Flex 1, flex 2. And we have display flex, flex wrap this time. And height, and flexgrow 1, flexgrow 2. So it's just an experiment, like what if, right? What if we have that flex wrap? Cool, there's flex wrap, nothing's different. But what if we also add in width 100%? They each take up 100% width, and they're wrapping to the next one. What if we didn't have wrap? What if there's no wrap? So now it's no wrap. They're all three there, but one of them seems to have dominated. Looks like the one in the middle. Just kind of fun to experiment with it. That's flexgrow. I don't know why. It makes me think of people growing weed in their basement with grow lights. I guess because of all the advertisement you see around. You ever watch Louis C.K.? Seems like that's his comedy routine. He just like, whatever random thoughts come in his head, he just says them, like the weirder the thoughts. He's like, display flex. He laughs about it. So we have, now we're looking at flex shrink. Okay, so we got those three divs, flex 1, flex 2. So flex shrink, here we display flex, and we have a border, we have a height. We have something called flex basis. So flex basis means start out at this width. That's the basis, start at this width. So all three of those divs are starting at 200 pixels. In fact, when I am at 600 pixels, all three of those divs are 200 pixels because 3 times 2 is 600. So when my browser's at 600, they all three are 200 pixels. So you could open up Developer Tools, and then when you resize your browser, up in the top right there, you see I'm getting sizes, right? 741 pixels. Right now, 600 pixels. Each of those are 200 pixels, right? I'm right at 600 pixels. Each of those are 200 pixels. But as I grow, are they still each equal in size? No. Because the flex grow is 2 to 1. This one's twice as much as each of these individual ones. Now visually, I think if I added up those two edges, I'm not sure if they'd equal the middle. Maybe if I grew out far enough, they would. But it would not be smooth if I went from they're all equal to suddenly the one in the middle is twice as big. So it kind of grows proportionally, makes it like smooth, right? So at some point, they'd probably be equal if I went out far enough. So that's flex grow. Here's flex shrink. I'm at 600. They're all equal. Did they all shrink proportionally? No, Todd, they didn't. My goodness, I could see that. The one in the middle shrunk much more. That is an amazing example for explaining to me how flex shrink works. Thank you. Because flex 2 had a flex shrink of 4 on it. It shrunk 4 times as much as the things which are flex 1. So the way you could read this code is the 3 div flex items want to be 200 pixels wide. If the flex container is greater than 600 pixels, flex grow kicks in. If the flex container is less than 600 pixels, flex shrink kicks in. Flex shrink. So now you know how flex shrink works. That's it. I've got one example for flex shrink. And we already saw a little preview of flex basis. So we got those 3 divs. And so here's flex basis. And, they want to be 200 pixels. And if they're greater than 600, they start growing. And if they're less than 600, flex basis keeps their widths proportional. Okay? So the widths are proportional. Less than 600, more than 600, flex grow kicks in. I'm losing the ability to talk. Three divs. And we have just playing with percentage here. Flex basis 33%. What's going to happen? What do you think? Will flex grow ever kick in? Because flex basis is 33%. They're all always 33%. Flex grow never kicks in. So when I use pixels for the width, here I use flex basis 33%. Here I use flex basis 200 pixels. When I use pixels, then grow kicks in after a certain size. But percentage is always some percentage. So it's always going to be 33%. Never gets the opportunity to engage flex grow. So here I have border, I have height, I have width. I have flex basis auto. So flex basis auto just says what's the width. So this right here is the exact same thing as saying flex basis 200 pixels. Okay, that's flex basis auto. And flex grow 1 and 2, we already saw this example. But after 600 pixels, you know, they'll grow 2 to 1. Because flex basis auto, and look to the width, and the width is 200 pixels. Finally, we have flex. So flex is a shorthand notation for flex grow, flex shrink, flex basis. So here I have a display flex. Width, height, margin, border, background color, text align, flex 1, 1 auto. So what is my flex basis in pixels? Somebody tell me my flex basis in pixels. 300 pixels, because flex 1, 1 auto, 1 is flex grow, the first one. The second one is flex shrink. And then auto is flex basis, and it looks to its width, which is 300 pixels. So at 900 pixels, anything over that, it's going to grow on a 1-to-1, the flex grow will be 1 for all of the items. Anything less than 900 pixels, flex shrink will be 1 for all the items. So they'll shrink and grow in proportion before and after 900 pixels. Isn't that pretty? How many people, when you saw that layout, you're like, that's visually pleasing? Yeah, that was my impression too when I put that together. I was like, that's visually pleasing. So now we have a Wahoo, somebody with an ID Wahoo. So we have display flex, row, no wrap. Those are the defaults, so I don't need them. Width, height, margin, border, background color, text align, center. So we're putting the text in the center. Flex 0, 1 auto. So no grow. Shrink on a 1-to-1 basis. And flex basis width is 300. And then we have flex 0, 2 auto. So at 900 pixels when it grows, Wahoo's going to grow twice as much as everything else. Shrink twice as much. Everything less than 900, Wahoo will shrink twice as much as everything else. And when it's 0, what happens when it's 0? Is that still just proportional? So it didn't grow, did it? But now we're shrinking. Wahoo's shrinking more than the rest. What happens if we set that to 1? Grow, filled in. Don't grow. Anybody want to make any wagers that this is probably 900 pixels? Who's a betting person? Oh, that's not 900. Why is that like less than like 1,020 or 30? We got some border, we got some padding. Well, let's look at that. Where is that in the code? Width, height, margin, border. On the item, we have border up here. Right? So border's on the outside of that container, of the red part. So we got some border on the outside of that. And then we have some border on the items. And where is that padding? Where's that space coming from between here? Margin, it's the default. So if we did this, resets, Maya reset, Control C, copy that, drop it here, and then come in here and link that, and reset Meyer, and then come here. Took some of that stuff out. Because if you look in there, it's resetting or setting some of those things to 0. What would we have to get rid of to get rid of the space outside these divs? Margin, 16 pixels, right? Let's get rid of that. Cool, now all we have is border. What's up?
Why did it go from 600 to 900 for the window size?
I just changed them from 200 to 300 the width. Is that what?
Oh,
Right here?
okay.
Like before, I think we were using examples which were...
So you're just adding together for each div. You're adding
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Okay.
I think before we were using... That was 300. Oh no, 200 width. So what else can we do? Because we're still not at that being 900. We're closer, but it's a little bit off. What's
The box size? Box sizing.
box sizing?
But how about on the actual container itself? Well, no, never mind.
So now the padding and the border on the divs aren't adding to it. We're pretty close. Oh, they're starting to move. We're not to 900 yet. So it's this one right here. I don't know what happens if we drop box sizing border box on that. Oh, not to 900, still moving. So we'd have to comment that out. So that should be 900 right there. 900. They didn't move. When we get to 899, it moves. All right, so I'm going to put that back on because I like it. Put that back on because I like it. And take that out because we don't need it. They're growing and they're shrinking. So that's flex. Challenges and solutions. I gave you this in homework on Blackboard. So I assigned these challenges and solutions on Blackboard. You can see them here. Create 8 pages which rearrange this code by changing the properties of the flex container. So the code, you'll find that on Blackboard, the link to the code, unless I renamed it, in which case the link will be broken. And the code I am referring to is this code right here. So just rearrange this code to have 8 pages differently designed. We did one of them today in class. That was my last solution. And if you're stuck on what I'm looking for, you can see the solutions right here. So here are my 8 pages I created for that solution. And then I want you to create 6 pages which work with each page needs to work with one of, so these 8 pages are working with container properties. Just make some different layout playing around with container properties. These 6 pages are working with item properties, flex items, right? And the properties you can set on them. And use each property, demonstrate each property, so that you build one page where you're like, the point of this page is to show flex bases in action, right? And that doesn't mean you might not also have flexgrow and flexshrink on that page, but that page is specifically built for me to work with flex bases. Okay? So you'll create 6 pages doing that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview because I feel like you all got a little bit, there's been a lot of material. And you're at that point visually, in my mind, what I picture is somebody who's been working on their car and they used to just have a 5-speed Mustang and they rebuilt the engine and they put in all these aftermarket features like nitrous oxide or nitrogen or whatever the hell people do to make their cars fast. I got that one kid in my Fresno State class. He's got a Corvette with 1,200 horsepower. He's like the fastest racer in Fresno, and he made $150,000 last year racing people. And because like he emailed me and he's like, dude, can I have a little more time because I got caught by the police and I had some things. What? Why did you get caught by the police? I was racing. I'll give you more time, but you have to promise me you won't do anything that's going to take you away from your parents because I know they'd be really sad. Well, I got to race. That's how I make my living. Okay, we got to talk. Right? And then he's like, yeah, no, I've got this. And he's just built this car over time. So the image in my mind is that you guys have been building this car. It used to just be a 5-speed Mustang. Now you got nitrogen and everything. And it's like you're about to pull that clutch and go, wow. And just like, because like literally next week, this is what we're going to see. We're going to do media queries and a little bit of relative units. And then we're going to see how to start applying it. And these are Google examples. So one of my jobs as a teacher is to find the best resources to help you learn. And the best resources make material easy to learn. I am a good resource for this, right? Think about a good teacher versus a bad teacher. Think about a good book versus a bad book. Think about a good website versus a bad website. CSS Tricks, that's the website. I've looked at a lot of websites. I've been through other Flexbox trainings. CSS Tricks, that's what you want when you're learning Flexbox. So these resources here from Google, they're from Google. And here, there's certain design patterns for creating websites with Flexbox. And too bad. And media queries. This is too good. You could be late for that class.
I don't know if I can.
There's certain, so leave. So there's certain design standards, right? Certain patterns for Flexbox. And look at this. So here's one of them. Right? And the code on that is so clean and so simple. Right? 3 different layouts. You could see it there. And the code on that is this. Here's the layout code on that. Display flex, flex flow, width, and then a few media queries. Bye. Here's the next design pattern. So now you got containers you can start putting content in, and you have responsive websites. And this is something that a lot of people with websites still do not have good responsive websites. You could Google percentage of websites that are mobile friendly or responsive. You guys are about to like drop the hammer and pull the clutch or whatever.
If you put an image in a box like that, would it shrink and grow proportionately as well?
Depends upon how you put it in there. This one is just changes text size. And then finally, the last one is an off-canvas pattern. You have to understand a little bit of JavaScript here. So I labeled that JavaScript sucks. Because it does. It's a crappy language, I think. Right? You've seen that before, like, oh, give me the fly-in menu bar. Now, we haven't animated that and made it smooth or anything, but it's functional. So you're like, whoa, getting to good stuff. And these layouts, these are the layouts which, if you look at like Google Web Development Guide, Web Fundamentals, that's what it's called. So here's Web Fundamentals, and then Getting Started. And discover and design and UI and responsive layouts and responsive design patterns, right? These are the patterns I just showed you. And they have, oh, who uses that? Well, these people do. All these websites use that pattern. Who uses this one? Well, these guys do. Who uses this? Well, this one does. This layout shifter pattern. Who uses the tiny tweaks? Apparently these people do. Oh no, that's not the best example. Who uses off canvas? Everybody uses off canvas. Make this smaller. There it is. Fly-in menu. See you guys. Thanks for staying late. How many people got their money's worth? How many people are excited? Like, oh, cool. All right, good.